No, that's not what happened. But it just shows you, my battery, my fancy, expensive watch died, and I just don't have a watch. So even though it's on the phone, but it's not the same. When you have a watch, you keep looking at it. So I'm a little late. I got a little sidetracked, but I'm here. So we have a few minutes. So we're going to go forward. And, a lot of things I want to talk about. I'm not sure we'll get it all today, but we will continue. So we're up to the next Eitzah. The next piece of advice. We didn't even get into the halachas yet of all the details, which we'll get to. But first, is going in order of the booklet. And he says, another great idea, another piece of advice, how to avoid and to be sensitive to others. He says, many times we get insulted by someone and we want to answer back, to defend ourselves. Very often, it's to show the other person that he also has the same faults, that he does the same thing wrong. But there's an incredible chazal about someone who has something to answer back and doesn't. We all know that if someone has an instinct to respond, and as we spoke, that instinct to respond is most often when we feel that we're right. And if we think about it, when such an assignment comes out our way, we would be able to overcome the Yetzer Hara. In other words, it's the power of squelching our instinct and our need to respond and to hold it back. And the Chazal says like this, it's a pasuk, Hanelom ve'enim olvim, it's based on a pasuk, Hanelom ve'enim olvim, those people who get insulted and don't insult back, Shoymim cheposam ve'enim meshivim, they listen to their insult and they don't respond. Oisem me'ava, they do mitzvahs out of love for Hashem, usmechem b'yisurim, and when they get suffering, they rejoice in the suffering. In other words, they realize that it's a gift. Sometimes when Hashem sends suffering, it's to make us better and to give us an opportunity. We'll see more about that in a second. That's what the pasuk says. Hashem loved ones are like when the sun shines brightly. We radiate the beauty of who we are when we're able to show that level of control where we have no need to answer back and we squelch it. This teaches us an incredible thing, that a person who gets insulted and doesn't insult back is Hashem's loved one. Such a person has the power to ask Hashem for anything, and is almost certain that Hashem, with his love, will answer his tefillos. Let's use this opportunity to daven. Of course, you can daven that the one bothering you should stop. That's in a good one. But you can also daven for others in need, who need a refuah shleima, yer shemayim, avos Torah, panos, and shidduchim. And don't forget to daven for the gula shleima, which will be the end of all that sorrows, and we won't have to worry about all this. So everyone knows there are many stories I said over the years, these remarkable stories, and it's said in the name of Reb Chaim. Someone once came to Reb Chaim Kanievsky, and he said, he had no children. He says, Rebbe, you have to be maftiach me. You have to be geyser that I'm going to have children. So he says, who am I to be geyser? So he was distraught, and he said, Reb Chaim, so he said, Rebbe, but who should I go to? So he told him, find someone who is being insulted and squelches his response, and ask him to daven for you at that moment, and you'll be blessed. And there's many stories about that. And it's a tremendous opportunity when a person has a situation like that. And unfortunately, it happens occasionally. Hopefully, not too often. When a person finds himself in a very embarrassing situation, sometimes deservedly, but most often undeservedly. And I just read recently a story about a remarkable story. It was on one of the the website Hidabrut. It's a very popular Kiruv website, Hidabrut. They have one in Hebrew and English. Remarkable. I read at some point a story about a prominent speaker who came to speak at an event, and it was one of these Chinese auctions, but she was speaking. It's hard to get people's attention, but she was very, very popular speaker, and she started to speak, and people started flocking around. Suddenly, a woman comes up to the microphone, grabs out of her hand, and starts harassing her, and she's taken aback. She says, "I don't know you," and says, "No, of course you know me." And she harasses her, and the short end of the story is that this woman just laced into her and started saying all sorts of things. And then the woman was, broken. She was actually crying because there was hundreds of women there. And she asked one of the organizers to go on the other microphone, to shut off the microphone that this woman grab the other one, and call up. There's a woman who came to the lecture whose name is Racheli, and tell her to come up to me and meet me on the side. And it was a little strange. I didn't know what was going on. and they make this announcement, hundreds of women. This middle-aged young woman, married woman, a middle-aged woman comes up to her and she tells her, I want to know, you know, your mother's a good friend of mine, and I know that you're married for 10 years without children. I bless you that in the schus that I didn't respond to this woman, you should be blessed. And the story went that at the end of this, during the lecture, after she gives this bracha, they tried to calm this woman down who can't be calm. And he says, so she asks her, says, do you know my name? She says, yeah, Cohen. She says, my name's not Cohen. He says, but your name used to be Cohen. You were my madricha. You were, a dorm counselor, and you abused me and you disgraced me. Meanwhile, she pulls out what's called a two-dot sahut, and she proves it to her with her name, her previous name. Her maiden name was Chen, not Cohen. Anyway, the woman was embarrassed, obviously. And whatever it was, and the end of the story was that they followed up the story, and this woman that she gave the brother to had a baby. That's a story of the many, many stories. I remember years ago, I said over a story about a kid who was abused by his classmates. He was never a kid who had some learning disabilities, and the kids used to taunt him. He was overweight. Like kids, unfortunately, bully. But they observed after a while that the kid, instead of reacting like he used to, every time the children taunted him, he would get quiet and start whispering and pull out a list, and he would be reading something. So one day his Rabbi, so he says, so they asked him, he said, well, what's going on? So he said, I once heard the Rabbi said in the name of Reb Chaim, this famous, that they said over that if a person's embarrassed and he doesn't respond, and you give a bracha, you can affect Hashem listens to your tefillos, because when a person is in that situation where he's being embarrassed and he turns to Hashem and he says, I accept the pain, it's almost like death, and then that's chus, so he turns it around to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to use that opportunity to not respond, and it turned out, and he said over the story that I told you earlier, that the woman who and gave the bracha and was Mekuyim. So he heard that story and he realized that he was an abused child by others. Instead of reacting, a young boy, he had a list of all the chaylim that he knew, and he used to read those names to himself in order to daven for them. So instead of saying, when people said something not nice to him, he would daven for them. And I don't know if he has feels to answer, but that's a beautiful, touching story. So Shai, this is something we all have to know. So certainly we should be careful not to insult anyone. And we should remember how important it is not to respond back. It's a part of a Dvar. And actually in the Sefer HaChinuch, there's a famous Sefer HaChinuch that I want to touch. I'm not sure we're going to get into it. Let me just give you a little preface to it. So, years ago, I think I may have spoken about this. Listen, I've been around a long time already. So we've been talking about a lot of things over the years. So I can't tell you that I have said, I didn't say, I don't know what I said, what I didn't say. And I see I left home one of the pages, so I'm not going to be able to teach it anyway. But I just want to throw out to you something to think about, and we'll come back to it maybe tomorrow. There's a famous, I'm missing a page. I copied the Sefer Chinuch, but I see that I'm missing one of the pages. I see it in my haste, because I realized how late it was. I ran out without it. Anyway, there's I made reference to this even, I think, in the past few nights or the past few weeks. We're talking about this. There's a seemingly Christian concept of, I don't know the exact, where in the Evangelon it's found, of where it's written, but there's an alleged Christian ethic of turning the other cheek. If someone hits you, so they say, okay, turn me again. So that's so the question is that a Jewish concept? Is that is that a Jewish concept, that's what we do? Is that the right way to do it? And the truth is, it's a timely topic, because we're going to soon, well, hopefully we'll read Eicha maybe as memory of what the Churban, because we'll have Yontif, Mashiach will come, and I don't know what happens to Eicha. I guess we'll read it, but we'll be able to read it and rejoice how we overcame all the tragedies. But either way, we'll read either Eicha in Simcha or we'll read Eicha in sadness. But in Eicha there's a pasuk. The pasuk says, "And Yitain l'reyehu l'makehu lechi V'yizbach cher pasai. I think something like that. I don't have it in front of me. I believe the pasuk goes, Yitain l'makeo, give to the one who hits you lechi, your cheek, your chin, hey, okay, hit me. And yizbach erpa, absorb the embarrassment, absorb it. So it is actually a pasuk. It's not a Christian concept, seemingly. But the question is that right? In other words, if someone insults you, of course, you want to, maybe you have to squelch yourself, but yitain l'makeo lechi is more than just absorb the insult. It's sort of like, okay, turn the other cheek and take it on. Okay, give me another punch. So, I mean, is it go to that extent? Is that a Jewish principle? Now, this is my question, and this is something I want to visit Amir Hashem tomorrow because it's at 1 minute to Mincha, and I'm really sorry I came late. I'm sorry I kept people waiting. And some of you, everyone can think about it. Is this? You can do some research on your own. Google's always a good place to go to. I don't know if you know how to do it. There's a way to, on your computer. You can do Hebrew characters, and then you can press if you know which ones. You can even have a keyboard. Then you can Google in Hebrew. It's an amazing. There's amazing amount of very wonderful websites, both in English too. If you ever want to look up something, you want the Torah, you just have to write the subject you're looking for, and write Torah, halacha, or something Jewish word, and you'll get amazing things that you can find online. There's remarkable websites, so many. It's such a gift if you use it correctly. At any rate, so this is the question we're going to talk about tomorrow. We'll come back to it. Is turn the other cheek borrowed from us? Is that something else they stole from us? Is it the right Jewish attitude? Should a person always, when they're being assaulted, just simply be quiet? I mean, one thing is be quiet, but it seems Yitain l'makeh says, hit me again. And so that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow.
Where's that quote, Rabbi Teichman?
Where is it?
Lechi.
I'm going to get it to you in a second. It's in Eicha. That's what it's in Eicha. And really, the pasuk, in the context of the pasuk, is that we've absorbed a lot of suffering. We absorbed the suffering, and we've taken it on the chin. It not necessarily means you don't react to your perpetrator. It means whatever we got, we accept it from Hashem. Not necessarily accept it from the other person and forgive our tormentor. Very often, you have the Christians, lahavdil, they forgive the person who committed the murder against their relative or whatever it is. I'm just going to read you the pasuk. I believe it's in Perek Gimel. I just got to find it, and I hope they're going to wait for me for Mincha. But Yitain, it's Perek Gimel. Pasuk Lamed 3:30. Yitain l'makeo lechi yizba b'cherpa. Yitain l'makeo lechi. Everyone look that up. And Amir Hashem tomorrow we'll continue. Forgive me for running a hit and run here. Thank you for